Unit 1B, Lesson 3. This lesson aligns with 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4 in your textbook. The standard, we are going to focus on proof theorems about parallelograms. Theorems include opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles are congruent, the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other, and conversely, rectangles are parallelograms with congruent diagonals. First, we need to discuss what a parallelogram is. It's a quadrilateral, a four-sided polygon with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So looking at the picture, we see AB is parallel to CD and BC is parallel to AD. So two pairs of opposite sides parallel. If it's quadrilateral with those conditions, then it is a parallelogram. For this lesson, I'm not going to go through any proofs. All you're going to do is write down all the theorems related to parallelograms. That way we can use them later in proofs. So the first four, theorem 6.2, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. 6.3, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. Theorem 6.4, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. Theorem 6.5, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so these are four theorems you need to make sure you understand. You probably should write these down in your notes. These next four theorems are going to look very similar to the previous four. The only thing that's different is that the hypotheses and the conclusion are flipped. The if-then parts are flipped in these theorems. These are the converses of the previous four theorems. So theorem 6.6, if both pairs of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Theorem 6.7, if both pairs of opposite angles of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Theorem 6.8, if an angle of a quadrilateral is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. And theorem 6.9, if the diagonals of a quadrilateral bisect each other, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Again, you need to be familiar with these converses of the first four. Make sure you write these down in your notes. And now the final four theorems for this lesson. Theorem 6.10, if one pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent and parallel, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Theorem 6.11, a parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if its diagonals are perpendicular. Theorem 6.12, a parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. And then theorem 6.13, a parallelogram is a rectangle if and only if its diagonals are congruent. Obviously, this lesson had 12 different theorems. That's a lot of information. Make sure you go through these, understand them, come with questions, because we're going to use all these theorems to go through proofs involving quadrilaterals and parallelograms.